Hi everyone, Lisa O'Halloran here, your instructor for professional presentations. Welcome to class. So who's excited? Are we ready to talk about all things public speaking? Well, maybe you're not quite as excited as I am. Maybe some of you feel a bit like this. I hope you're not wanting to run from the room. Most likely, most of you are feeling a bit like this, a little nervous, a little apprehensive. It's normal. Public speaking can be scary. It's not something that we have likely practiced a great deal or have developed our skills in. In fact, research says public speaking is our number one fear. We fear it more than we actually fear our own death. That means if you go to a funeral, you'd rather be the one in the casket than the one who's asked to deliver the eulogy. Well, I am glad you're here, and I'm excited to work with you over the next 8 weeks to grow and hone your presentation skills. Welcome to week 1. In this video, we'll talk a bit about presentations as a form of communication and look at the communication model. Then, a brief bit about why this course is important, review the components that you'll find in the syllabus, talk a bit about audience and purpose, and then the activities that you have for week 1. So let's get started. Presentations. What are they? Well, they're just another form of communication. It's planned and organized communication that is intentional. We are looking to inform, entertain, persuade a group of people using words, physical delivery, and maybe even visuals to support our message. So let's look at that model. There are 7 elements of the communication model. You've likely seen it in other courses and other places, but here we'll contextualize it to giving a presentation. We know we start with people, right? There are senders, and that is going to be you, the speaker, the presenter, and there are receivers, the rest of us, your audience. We know that there's context, right? When we give a presentation, like the one I'm delivering now, I'm thinking about history. I'm thinking about relationships, how we might know one another, if we do, if we don't, right? We think about all of those things about our audience. What's in the room? Are there any cultural influences? Are there any existing relationships that we should be aware of? What is that physical environment going to look like? In this class, we're using technology, right? We are fully online, and we'll talk a bit in a moment about some of the technology we're going to use. Our third component is the message. And that is where we start our work in this course. We're going to talk about how to organize quality content that we can deliver to achieve our goals, right? So the message, what is it that we're trying to deliver? Oftentimes we're thinking about being nervous and getting in front of the room and the delivery. All of that will fall into place if we have strong content that's well organized. So messages we know can be informal, they can be spontaneous. We're going to be more formal rather than informal in this class. And we need to think about what is being conveyed in an organized and somewhat structured manner. Then we have channels, right? How are we delivering it? Presentations can be done face-to-face. They can be done online like we are doing. They can be recorded. They can be live online. We could even be in a hybrid situation. So ours, of course, are going to be online and they're going to be recorded. Students have told me there's some sense of relief when they know that they have as many takes as they would like to make this happen because we're not doing this live. We also know that we have both verbal and nonverbal components of our delivery, and we'll talk more about that as well. Then there's certainly feedback, right? Feedback is what the audience gives us as the speaker. It can be verbal, it can be nonverbal, it can be questions they might pose, it might be the way they nod or gesture or smile or look away, or maybe they're bored and they're picking up their phone, right? There could be a whole host of nonverbal cues that they're giving. It might be laughing, applauding, cheering for you as the speaker. So all of those feedbacks are important for us to consider. And then there's what we call noise in the environment, right? And that can be anything that gets in the way of the message. It could be perhaps you're going to be recording your presentation and you have a window open and a cement truck rolls by, right? So you could even have noise in your background, right? The furnace runs, something happens, someone in the next room turns on a TV, right? That could be in a recorded situation that we're trying to control those factors. In a live environment, there might be sound that happens, right? Or interruptions that could happen. These could be physical things. They could also be psychological barriers. And finally, outcomes, right? What are the results? And I like to think about presentations from the standpoint as the presenter, from the standpoint of what do I want my audience to think or do differently as a result of my presentation? In other words, begin with the end in mind. Am I trying to convince them of something, inform them about something, entertain them? But what is my purpose? And starting with purpose helps us to develop the content that ensures we are on track to the goal that we have set for ourselves. So what is the value of studying public speaking and developing those skills, right? Well, it's for the workplace largely. Communication skills are critical to success in your career. It's going to give you a solid foundation as well, not just for work, but for other classes as you go through the program. Here at NWTC, you're going to be making quite a few presentations, sometimes individually, other times within a group. And the background, right, is going to help you with personal skills. Everything from critical thinking, building your confidence, finding your own voice and thinking about storytelling, how to influence the world around you, and even meeting new people, making new connections. So as we get started in our course, let's remember a few key principles, right? And this is overarching advice for the entire course. Timing is everything, right? Make sure you're staying within time limits. So each of the assignments that you have in the course, I will note what your target time is. From the 2-minute first activity to the introduction speech, which is a 3-minute, to the final, which is 5 to 7 minutes. Working within the prescribed time is important, not just in this class, but in everything in life. When your manager says, I need you to give a 7-minute update, you need to plan for it and make sure you stay within your allotted time that you've been provided. Another key thing to remember is that public speaking skills require muscle memory. It is a learned, practiced skill. We don't just wake up one day and say, I want to be a good speaker, therefore I am. We need to practice the skills, right? So just like perfecting anything else, whether it's sports or music or anything else that you have tried, it takes time and effort to improve, right? And it also involves content and relationship. What we're looking at here is that ability to build trust, respect, and our credibility. A few more things to keep in mind as we go forward is just because you see someone else do something and you think, wow, I have to do that, right? We don't need to imitate someone else. We might emulate. How can we incorporate perhaps bits and pieces, right? Techniques, things that we see or like into our own style, but we don't want to be someone else. So think about that a little bit as you observe speakers around you in different situations and settings, right? Also, I want you to think about building on your existing strengths, right? What are you good at today? Are you a great writer? How's that going to translate into how you organize? Are you comfortable in front of a room? Are you comfortable being the center of attention? How can you build on that in this class? And then remember the power of a story. Storytelling creates emotion, and that is going to help you connect to your audience and help make your message resonate with your audience. So we're going to talk a lot about storytelling, and I want you to think about that from the very beginning when you work on your introductory presentation. How are you going to introduce yourself to the rest of the class? Will you use story, or what elements of your personal experience will you bring forward? So let's take a look at what you can expect in the course. We have 6 modules. Everything is available for you on Canvas There are no textbooks to buy. We have an ebook that I use as a resource. I've also included the PowerPoint slides. All of those materials are within each of the modules on Canvas. So this week we're going to start talking about audience and purpose, right? Knowing who's in the room, knowing what they already think, feel, or know about your presentation so you can right size your content. Critically important. We don't want to talk over them. We also don't want to talk to them like they're two, right? We want to right size it and make sure it matches. In Module 2, we'll talk about content and organization. What is our thesis statement? How are we going to organize it? How are we going to structure? What are our key points going to be? How are we going to research? What proof are we going to bring in? I might have a story that gets you to feel, that provides an example. What research do I have to support my point? And that's where we're going to build the content, if you will. In Module 3, we'll get into graphics and visuals. Notice the order of these. If we were in person right now, I'd ask you to raise your hand. So I want you to ponder this. How many times or have you ever been in a situation where you knew you had to make a presentation and the very first thing you did was open PowerPoint and create a title slide? I can't be the only one, right? We've done that before. What I want you to think about in this course is PowerPoint comes later. Slides are after we have determined who our audience is, what we want them to think or do differently as a result. We have created our content, and now we say, what graphics and visuals should I put together that is going to enhance the audience experience, that's going to help me convey my message? Notice how it says, help me convey my message, not be my message. You are not your PowerPoint presentation. I want you to have the focus on you and the content and the message, and think about visuals as the supporting cast, if you will. Module 4 gets into delivery techniques, maybe things like using an attention-getting hook, how to reduce stage fright, eliminating filler words like ahs and ums, projecting your voice, using vocal variety, right? Those types of techniques. Thinking about body language, facial expressions, how you might use gestures. All of those come into play in Module 4. Module 5, we put it all together. Module 6 is your final presentation. That's the 5 to 7 minute presentation. So that's a bit of an overview of the course and what you can expect over our next 8 weeks. A few things to note in the syllabus. Of course, it's already on Canvas and available for you to access. But the course competencies really are that I've already mentioned. Understanding my audience, creating an objective, what do I want them to think or do differently as a result, building great content, selecting visuals and creating supporting materials, and doing an awesome delivery. Those are the course competencies. Of course, we're simultaneously working on employability skills, right? Those life skills, I think of them as, some people call them soft skills. The critical thinking and the organization and the personal accountability and the valuing individual differences and so on are part of the course. In terms of tools, I already mentioned that we are using a digital book, so there's no materials that you need to buy, no textbook per se. I do also bring in 3 other tools through the course, technology pieces. I use LinkedIn Learning, which is fantastic. If you don't already know this, as an NWTC student, you get free access to literally thousands of hours of training through LinkedIn Learning, and we use a few of those modules within the course to really enhance and draw out some of our skill sets that we are developing. We also use Flip. Flip is super cool. It is, it's actually called flip.com, and it is a presentation tool where you can record presentations as well as leave feedback for your peers. So Flip works on any device, desktop, laptop, tablet, cell phone. It is a really neat tool. We will be relying on that in lieu of discussion boards. You'll do your presentations in Flip. We'll really center a lot of our communication within flip.com, formerly called Flipgrid, if you have maybe used that in a previous course at NWTC or elsewhere. Important to note, it is a closed system, so people can't get to it. And of note, your very first activity there is to record 2 minutes of yourself on camera. I have it set to private, so you and I are the only ones who are going to see yours. Your other presentations, of course, will be available to all of your classmates to review. Flip is fantastic. A note when you're doing discussions on Flip, please don't wait until the deadline. Post your initial video a few days before the deadline so that you all have time to watch and respond to one another to meet the very end date of that discussion. The last thing we use, of course, is going to be PowerPoint. That is the business presentation software of choice out in industry today. So I will ask you to use PowerPoint for your final presentation. I will also have you practice. It has a really cool practice component to it called PowerPoint Coach. And you can rehearse your presentation with the coach where it gives you feedback. It lets you know if you are reading from your slides or using filler words, going too fast, going too slow, not offering enough vocal variety. It offers you feedback. Really great tool, one that I think is underutilized, both at the college and in industry today. So it's the PowerPoint Coach, Rehearse with a Coach feature. You might say, well, I've never used PowerPoint. That's okay. If you're comfortable and prefer to build things in Google Slides, I understand that. I would really like you to get used to PowerPoint though. So 2 options. Please first know that you get Microsoft Office 365 for free as an NWTC student. You can download that. You just go to your portal, your my.nwtc, and there is a link for you to download it from there. If you still prefer to live in Google and use Google Slides, you could create your materials there and then do the download as a PowerPoint document, knowing that my expectation is that you practice with the PowerPoint Coach and ultimately deliver with it. But if your preference is to build in Google, you can do that and then just do file, download as, and create your PowerPoint file. So what do we do for assignments in this class? There's no exams, there's no quizzes, right? This is all hands-on learning. We use reflections. I'm a firm believer in the power of reflection, being thoughtful, going in, thinking about what you're good at, where your opportunities are for growth, and then doing some reflections as we go. Personal to you, I'm looking for you to think critically, be honest, candid, and identify strengths and where you can improve, and then doing some self-assess as you go through the course. Assignments are really about building skills. We are doing some LinkedIn Learning assignments and the 2 presentations that I previously mentioned. That will be the big assessed assignments in the course, an introduction speech and a final presentation. So that's a little bit about the structure of the course and the syllabus and what you can expect. I've already mentioned Flip. It's a great video tool. You can use it. There's an app for it you can download. You can use it web-based. You should know there's unlimited attempts. You get to decide when you like it and save it and upload it. It is very safe and secure, easy to use. I will have the links in each of the assignments as to how to access our group in order to do that. And then, as I mentioned, the PowerPoint, the Speaker Coach tool. Here's a screenshot of what the report looks like at the end. It tells you the duration, the slides, and some really helpful information and some suggestions for improvement. Highly encourage you to use it, not just in this class, but beyond this class as well. So why is the audience important? Why do we care about who's in the room, right? We need to analyze who's in the room so that we can tailor our communication, structure our message to hit, right? Not too high, not too low. And there's some different ways that we can do that, right? We can use demographics, we can use psychographics. In our particular instance, we're all college students, so that is one perhaps criteria we can think about from a psychographic standpoint. Beyond that, we'll get to know each other as we work together. It'll have a little bit less of an impact here in the classroom, but when we get into the outside world, it's important to think about who's in the room. Maybe it's something as small as a team meeting or a presentation to managers where you work. Thinking about who's in the room and what they already think or know about what you're about to share can help you craft, can help you position your message. So that's why it's so important. And we know what demographics look like, right? Outward characteristics. Demo is a Greek word meaning people or group, and graphic is description. So here are some things that come into play, right? Beliefs, attitudes, values, and needs. We've heard these likely in other classes that you have taken along the way, but everything from what we hold to be true, right, to what attitudes we have about things, sort of where they link to behavior, and they come from a lot of different places. What do we value? What's important to me, and what my needs are. So thinking psychographically, as I look back on my career in industry, I think about different managers I've had and how I have needed to structure my communication differently based on who they are. So understanding the room can be super important in your success. So does it leave you wondering if you can even begin to analyze your audience, right? It's not like we're going to give everyone a personality test. And by the way, I do have a fun little personality assessment that will be part of your introduction on Canvas, simply just to get to know each other a little bit. And then you can use personality assessments and compare them to popular series, mainstream culture, to sort of get a more clear picture. So for example, I'm an ENFJ, and that aligns when I look at Harry Potter. For any Harry Potter fans in the room, I absolutely love Harry Potter. I'm Dumbledore, actually, is the character I align with, and I think that's kind of cool. And Dumbledore was the teacher, so that sort of makes sense, right? So focus on what your audience has in common is going to be a piece of what you do. And then we'll think about the context of it, right? What kind of time do I have? Why are they there? Again, just recapping what I just said. And what does the physical space do for you? How does it work or not work to deliver your message? And think about ways that psychographic characteristics of the audience can actually influence your presentation, about those values, needs, beliefs, and attitudes of your classmates, right? So I have a few examples on this slide even. Let's just say you decided to do your final presentation on encouraging a study abroad trip. Right, so think about who's in the room. How well traveled do you think the audience is? And again, we often have to assume we're going to have some of both in the room. So how can we play to the audience members who likely might be quite well traveled and what the opportunity might present for them versus someone who's never been on an airplane before, right? So these are just some potential topics that you could even use in the classroom. Buying Mac versus PC, or persuading you to be philanthropic and sponsor a child, or do some sort of nonprofit support, some donation work, or volunteering for Special Olympics, right? These could all be potential topics that you might want to use, and then need to think about, what do I think my classroom feels like it? What do they know about it? What do they need to know about it, right? Because we know personality affects our work. It absolutely does, whether they're introverted or extroverted, whether we're more sensing or intuitive. Are we thinkers or feelers, or judges or perceivers? So there's a fun activity in Canvas to go through on this. It's grounded in the work of Carl Jung, and based on the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, 16 different possibilities, knowing that we are all 16 of these combinations. It's just to what degree we are, right? How strong we are. And think about it as sort of our view, our lens at how we look at the world. So having some fun with the personality here. So that is overview of Module 1 and a welcome to class. To get started, it's time to review the syllabus, shoot me any questions that you have, do your very first reflection, which is, I'm about to embark on this class. How do I feel about it? Give me a paragraph or two. Then do your first flip, which is just to create a baseline. What we're doing with that is I just want 2 minutes of you on camera. I have a canned presentation in there already. Excuse me. Just looking for you to watch it and then summarize what you see. So review the text resources and we are ready to get started. I'm excited to work with you. I'm available via email and can schedule Teams meetings as needed. Let's get started.